Welcome to the Local Talk podcast presented by Small Town Design Co. And today I'm super excited for our conversation. I have Jamie Lynn Anderson Lindley on the show. So Jamie, just tell me a little bit about yourself and kind of what you're doing now.
Yeah, so kind of long story short, I guess you'd say I grew up on a tobacco farm, beef farm out in Mount Laurel area, and I left at 18. I was one of those kids. I was like, I'm leaving, I'm never coming back, see you later. I'm back. Because realistically, Halifax is home, right? And
Sure.
So this is where my family is. So when I had my own children or my own child, we wanted to come back and just raise him with his cousins and really have that same experience. And so since I've been back, one of the things I found is I don't want people to have to leave to realize this is a great place to be like I did.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there's so many opportunities here. And so I kind of have always fallen into HR leadership type roles, and so really fortunate now to be working with Comfort Systems here in town and doing their outreach, recruiting, and training. So a lot of community interaction, which I absolutely love because I just get to go talk to people all day long. I'm great at that. And really educating people though on opportunities that are here, particularly those traditional trade type opportunities,
sure.
Right? And people don't see those as career opportunities, but they're here and they're awesome, and
and there's plenty of them.
There's so many,
yeah,
and these
sure.
kids going into trades, they're going to make more money than you and I make 2-3 years into their career.
Correct.
And so really that's kind of where I find myself, I guess you say passions, and kind of where I'm at right now is I really want people to understand that we live in a great community that offers so much, and that, that traditional 4-year path, that's not necessarily the only path available. And we've got to start encouraging people to look at the opportunities that are considered non-traditional and how they can make those career paths. So I've really tried to get more involved in the community, with the school system, just in talking with people, which is why the current role I have is so perfect, because it's what I'm doing all the time. It's just educating people, right?
Sure.
So that's kind of where I'm at these days, especially now that I have Beckett's 4.5. Oh, God, 4.5, right?
I get it. I trust me. Mine's about to turn 6 in June, and I'm just like, I don't know where times went.
Yeah.
I don't know where it went.
It's tough, and we're in the middle of kindergarten registration and all that right now, and
that's the funnest part.
Is it? I'm not sure. I'm really
that's
stressed
what they
out.
say, but I haven't experienced it yet. But for me, it seems like every week it's like we could, come home with something new, bug related. We're always sick, it seems. So I think that's just part of it, especially when they start school. Yeah. But with your background and everything, first time I met you was actually at a career fair.
Yeah.
God, I know
it seems like a long time ago.
I know, but it really wasn't.
No.
But you're right. I think it was pre-COVID or right after COVID.
Right after COVID. It was the first one, and it was outdoors.
That's right. That's right. And I think when we first met, it's something like we kind of like just had that. We understood a lot of things that we were discussing with one another, and I always kind of appreciated your outreach and the way you kind of approach things with more of an open mind instead of closed-minded, or I think brainstorming ideas with one another has always been a cool process with us. And for your experience, I know that you lived in the Outer Banks for a while, which I'm jealous.
Yeah, me too. Take me back.
But you're back. But I think you did experience some. You got out and you saw some new things and some new areas, but it still brought you home.
Yeah. And I think that's key, what you said. You can't be closed-minded about anything that we're trying to accomplish. So whether it's things that we're trying to accomplish in the workforce, within the community, even within our churches, right? Like, the world is so different today, but the fundamental things that drive people aren't. So how do you reach them, though? Family time drives people. Money will always drive people, for better or for worse.
Correct.
But really feeling like they matter and they're involved and they're included. And so any leader, whether it's in the workplace, in the community, in a church, whatever, you have to morph the way that you're making people feel included without losing sight of your values. And I think that's where again, that's something I'm passionate about, but I think that's where myself included, we struggle, right? Because this is the way we've done it, and this is what worked in the past. Why isn't it working now? And if we're not evolving,
it's a different way of thinking now. I mean, especially with like recruitment purposes or anything like that I've experienced and I've seen, is like it's hard to reach a certain person nowadays because, number one, either people don't want to work,
right,
which is unfortunate.
So many.
But I think it ain't just that. I think it's creating new and exciting ways to reach that person.
Right.
It's more than just a career fair. It's more than that. It's more about creating a fun environment for them to really understand, like, either I want to work there or I don't. Kind of painting a picture of like, this place is a great place to work. But I don't really think that works for everything. I think sometimes people can get off the path as well of what they even started it for in the beginning. I think having people that are out there recruiting and are out there, from a marketing standpoint, recruitment is marketing. You have to, for me, I think you have to recruit just as much as you market. If you want to reach people to come work for your, facility or company, you're going to have to market in a way that reaches them more of a personable attachment. You know what I mean? Like, it's more personal than a somewhere that's just like, oh, here's an ad, come work for us. You know what I mean?
It is. It's personable. And then I think, at the same time, we are there to work, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, companies can be all fun and shiny on the outside, but what's beneath that? And I think that's where that balance is yes, you want to be fun and you want to be the hot new thing, but at the end of the day, when the shininess wears off, what's there? It's like a relationship. I mean, I tell people that all the time. It's just like a relationship. You have your honeymoon stage, and then what's the follow-up? And so I think that's a balance people are having to find.
And I think, too, it's like, if you go there and you're doing something and you're enjoying what you're doing, but I think, like I said, you can lose the focus. Like, you can lose the main focus on what you were trying to accomplish in the beginning.
Definitely.
And, I always have this quote that I've literally been living by for a couple years now, is, me being an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, I would say my entire life. I mean, I'll even tell you this story. I think it's pretty interesting. But so when I was in high school, I worked at Food Line for a while. Hated it. I did it though. I did it. But I always worked these like odds and end jobs, mowing grass, your typical high schooler job, But like during the summers, like I would really struggle. And I'm blessed because like my mother, she, was like, hey, here's a truck. You're on your own now, Here's your insurance, your phone bill, all that. Like I had to figure that stuff out when I was in high school. I know a lot of people didn't, but I did. And I think honestly that's what gave me that entrepreneur mentality. Mm-hmm. And I don't regret it. I think it took me a long time to figure out, like, Trevor, you're supposed to be working for yourself. Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. But, like when I was in high school, I'll never forget it. Do you remember, like, they were called paracord bracelets?
Oh, yeah.
You remember those?
Yeah.
Well, at the time, that was like the new fad when I was in school. Well, I guess I was like 11th grade, 12th grade. I guess I was a senior or something. I used to make those like on the bed of my truck in the parking lot at like midnight, hanging out, and people would just be throwing me $20 bills. Like, so like I think even then, like I still had that entrepreneur mentality, But working with different people and working at different jobs and kind of, I wouldn't say job hopping, but trying to find myself. I think it kind of showed when it was more about the place of work compared to the people that you work for.
Right.
And I think that's when I kind of got into my mentality of the quote that I try to live by is, disrespectful employers create fearless leaders. And I think that's like the biggest thing nowadays for me, and especially with an entrepreneur mentality. You can't always find your happiness within a particular place you work.
Right.
But I think not everybody's an entrepreneur, and I'm not saying that. But I think, too, it's like if you don't enjoy where you're working, you don't enjoy the people that you work for, it can kind of knock it down quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've been doing a lot of career fairs with elementary and middle school. We've got one at the high school coming up. You know, I always tell these kids, because they have opportunities that you and I didn't have. So, you know, CTE in Halifax is making a comeback, which is so exciting. And I encourage anyone that's not familiar with it to look into it for their kids. Like, it's so awesome. So they have all these opportunities that you and I just were not available, right?
For sure.
And so I tell these kids, you know, explore these avenues and find something that is fun and figure out how to make that your career. Because you're right, not everybody is going to own their own business.
No.
We can't all own our own
No,
business. But so, like, for me, I literally fell into HR, and I was a little bit of a wanderer until I settled back in Halifax. And I had an opportunity to work for some great leaders and mentors that I still keep in touch with today. And I had some opportunity to work for some horrible leaders and people that I'm like, well, I do not want to be that person. But at the end of the day, I always loved the HR world. I loved recruiting. I loved the outreach. I love writing policies. I know that's weird, but I enjoy it, right?
Yeah, it's your
So even through the ups, the downs, the mountains, the beach, Halifax, everywhere, I've been able to enjoy what I'm doing at the end of the day. And I think that's so key that people are like, well, I just have to make money. I have to make money. Well, no, you can make money and still like what you do.
Correct.
So if you like working with your hands, find something that you're going to work with your hands. If you like, you know, reading things, maybe you need to work at a newspaper one day. I don't know. But I just think it's so important, whether you're 5, 10, 20, 30s, 40s, 50s, find something that's going to bring you happiness at the end of the day, because life is too short.
It's way too
to
short.
be miserable, right?
Like, yeah, it's way too short. And I think, like you said too, I mean, we can go back to the kids and how quick their life has started. And it's like, I feel like my life hasn't really moved.
Yeah.
But then I look back and I'm like, holy smokes, like that was almost 6 years ago, you know? And it's like, what happened to time? So that's a prime example of life is super short. And take in every opportunity that you possibly can along the way, so you can learn new things. You can, you know, adapt and overcome to new things and take risk. I don't think anything comes in life without a challenge, without taking some sort of risk.
Right.
And it's scary at times, but I think it's definitely. I think nowadays, especially like post-COVID, I think that really woke a lot of people up when it came to like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Like, maybe this isn't for me. Or like, you know, whether they're working for an entire company or whether they're working for themselves or whatever, the fact of it is, people are trying to find their true happiness nowadays. And they have realized that life seriously is way too short. Yeah. And now I think they're really trying to pick up the pace.
I agree. And I think you see that within our community too, right?
For sure.
So, like, I know it can be frustrating sometimes because you look at what these other communities are doing and they're just so much farther ahead of us. But then you look and you see that there are a lot of people in our community that want that and that are working really hard towards that. And I think that's even, you're seeing more and more people in our age group that are starting to become more and more involved. And I think that's the same thing, is that they're trying to find and create their happiness at work, at home, in their communities. And
because, like, why wouldn't you want to live in a place that you want to work in?
Yeah.
You know, why wouldn't you want to live in a place that you play in? Why wouldn't you want to live in a place, you know, you want to live somewhere that you thoroughly enjoy. And I'm just one of them people, and I'll always go back to it, and that's the whole point of this podcast, is having these open conversations about things and be like, hey, like, if you don't like something, don't complain about it. Get up and do something about it. You know what I mean? Like, don't sit behind, don't be a keyboard, you know, warrior.
Definitely.
Like, get up and do something about it. Go to a meeting. Like, listen to what people are talking about, you know? That's
I agree.
the key.
It takes people getting involved, and it takes people in our age bracket getting involved, because that's, you know, we are the future of this community, and our kids are the future of the community.
Correct.
So if we don't start now, then
who's going to do it?
And we have to give back our time. And that's something I'm noticing too, is that there's this gap, you know, of people like civic organizations. If you look at them, a lot of them are a lot older, and we've got to start filling those spots and giving back to the community in those aspects too. So I think that's kind of where my, I guess you say, focus these days is really headed. I find myself with this new role, having so much more time for my family and the community, which is, I didn't even realize I didn't have it until I got it. And it's just, it's so amazing. Like the things I'm getting to do with Beckett and my husband, and just, it's like, wow, I didn't realize this. But that's also given me more time to really look at the community and say, these are the things that I'm passionate about, and this is where I want to help, right? Sure. And so, of course, one of those, I mean, I know you've heard me, anybody that's ever met me in the past year has heard me say it, is that we've got to convince kids to get involved in these CTE programs, that these are career paths for them. And I think it starts with educating the parents, you know, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it starts from base one, you know, first base. Basically, it's, if you don't put out the information that needs to be said from the get-go, it's, you know, it's hard to, you know, get things across. But I feel like definitely with the future of things, and definitely with the future of our children, and even like you said, our generation, you're starting to see this spark, and the spark is just like, it's almost like building up. It's like when you light a firework, you just see that spark and you're just waiting for that thing just to take off, you know, and go off. But it's, for me, it's like, when is that day, you know, going to happen? Which I don't think it needs to happen too quick. I don't think it needs to happen too slow. I think it all comes down to everyone working together and being one great big community, instead of, well, I can do this or I can do that. Like, it's not about that. Like, yeah, you can do that. Well, how can I help you do that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's, even when you don't agree, still having those conversations. And it's so exciting right now to be in a room full of people that are like, this is the goal, and we all want to get there. And then you just hear them talking about it, and you see the passion, and it's just, it's invigorating. Like, it's just so exciting to hear that, because for a while it was flat, right? Like, and a lot of that had to do with COVID, and I get it, and I'm so over it, and I'm ready to just move on at this point, right?
Everyone is.
And so you're seeing that energy come back. And so
which is cool. And I think maybe COVID, like I said, it put more perspective on things. It's like, now's the time. Like, we've been waiting 2 years to be kind of like, you know, in a cocoon type of thing, and now we're just busting open, and it's really starting to show, you know, 2 or 3 years. Well, was it 2 years, 3 years now?
I don't even know.
I don't even know when it started.
That whole first year of COVID, I was in an HR manager role, and it's literally, it's just a blur, because every day was waking up, reading the news. What new policies? Am I keeping everybody safe? I mean, it's just,
I could see that just being an absolute nightmare.
I tell people all the time, like, gosh, I have PTSD from it. Like, and no joke.
For sure. Like, how could you not?
It was a life. If you would have told me, you know, years ago, that at some point in my career in HR, like, that's what I was going to be dealing with, was, you know, I talked with McKenna, the health department, every day, almost. Like, am I doing the right thing? I just never would have imagined. But it was such, also, I say that there was so much positive that came from it, right? Like you said, it was, I really looked at, like, okay, what are the important things in life? Like, and I made it through that. And for me, that was a huge career accomplishment, because so many HR professionals just threw their hands in the air and burnt out during that phase. So everything, you know, builds us if it doesn't break us, and sometimes it breaks us and then just rebuilds us. And I've been through a lot of rebuilding in the past few years, but it's all been good. It's just exciting, and life is funny how it works.
It really is. I mean, I feel like from like mental health all the way down to just getting up every morning and finding a new meaning in life, you know what I mean? And I think it's a great way, and I think, like, for me, it's just out and talking about things, and just be like, hey, like, let's have these conversations about like we're doing right now. And I think it really goes the distance. It really shows, like, these people care. We care about the next 10, 20, 30 years. And it opens doors, right? Because somebody might listen to this and never know that you or I were interested in X, Y, or Z, and they're like, oh, well, I need to connect with that person. Correct. And I think that's so much. It's connecting those dots of who can do what. And, you know, you mentioned mental health, and I just think that's something that good and bad has come out of the past, 4 years that people are focusing on it. But I think it has to be a focus, and that has to be something that people are taking care of, and, you know, taking that step back to say, hey, I need a breather. So just give me a breather, right? Need to figure this out. Give me a second. And I think, you know, it's just so funny. I tell people all the time, life is so funny. And, like, you know, I'm a very religious person, and
God he just has these crazy ways of making things work out. At the end of what year we're in 2023. So when 2022 ended, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Like, things had changed. I was going into 2023 unemployed, and I was like, oh, what happens now? And I am just in this place in a career working with leaders that I am just every day like, wow, I get to work with this person that I've looked up to for so long in the community. And it's crazy. Sometimes you have to sit back and say, I'm listening, God. I'm finally listening, right?
That's right. There's a congratulations for you and your crew at Comfort Systems for Business of the Year. That's super something to be very proud of.
Yeah, those guys are doing great things, and they're kind of a hidden gem in Halifax.
For sure.
And that's, part of what I'm doing is like, let's reintroduce Comfort Systems to the community, because so many people still just aren't truly aware of what they're doing, what the career opportunities are. So they are doing great things. They employ 150 plus people. It's exciting because I get to say, hey, these people have done this, and we're just going to the next level now, and I get to be a part of that next level. So it's pretty cool, and there's some great people there to learn from, and that have been doing big things silently in this community for so long that people don't even realize what they've contributed to.
But yeah, I think like you said, it's definitely a hidden gem, and the amount of people that you guys hire each year, and you're changing lives each year that you might not even see it, but it is a big deal. And I think there's a ton of other companies too that do the same thing, but I think with you guys and you, like you said, you coming in and kind of reintroducing the way that they've been here for so long, reintroducing them to the community, and I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's exciting, and we just started the registered apprenticeship program with the state. So,
cool.
Shameless plug, we have the first registered plumbing apprenticeship in the county, which is
great.
Super exciting. So it's just all sorts of things happening behind the scenes that are just, I'm so excited to be a part of them and to really push them forward and just see kind of where it all ends up. So, it's good. Life is good. I feel like if we would have had this conversation 6 months ago, it would be a different conversation. So, it's funny. And I've told you this so many times, but for me to watch your journey over the years that we've known each other, from where you were to where you are today, it's so cool, and I'm so proud of you. And
Thank you.
It's really awesome that you've talked about this, I think, since the day I met you.
For sure.
And so to see it come to life and be
together.
A thing.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
Like I said, it's been super challenging, but I always say I'm super blessed to have support from our community and the people in it that understand the vision and understand what I'm trying to accomplish for not just myself, but everybody around me. So, and like I said, I've thought about this for years, and kind of technically started it years ago as a side gig. And when things don't go quite the way you expected in your life, you get on the train and you figure it out, and that's kind of what I've been doing. Some days I'm learning something new, and it's this is new. Let me figure this out. But it's definitely fun, and it's definitely an adventure. And I think it's what I was supposed to be doing. I think it's got its days, but so does every other type of job in the world.
Definitely.
For
sure.
I don't think if anybody somewhat doesn't complain about a day at work.
Right. No day's going to be perfect.
It's just not. And it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think with our age, you learn that it's just part of the journey.
Yeah. Definitely. So what's next for Trevor? I'm going to turn the tables on here.
Oh, okay. I honestly, I kind of want to see things keep progressing in the right direction, not just for my company, but the community aspect of it, and how I can help grow that community, grow the community that we deserve.
Right.
I always say, if I help an individual, with their marketing, that marketing is going to promote growth to that company. Well, that company is going to have growth, which means they're going to have to hire more people. Well, that's also bringing in more income to our area, which brings in more opportunity. So it's like a kind of like a circle of life,
Right.
you know, and that's really my mission, is to pretty much just stay, you know, committed to what we're trying to accomplish as a community and as an individual. I want to be more in maybe in a leadership role one day. I don't know. I don't know where the world takes me. I just take it day by day. But right now, I'm really focused on how we can do it together, not just by myself.
Awesome.
So
cool.
for you, and I always like to ask this question, is, you know, what do you want to be remembered by?
Yeah. So, wow, that's deep.
I know it's super deep.
It's okay.
And it's a question like you don't really have to answer fully, but like I think it's super important.
It's weird that I actually think about that a lot. And I think about that. Well, so, you know, my papa recently passed away, and like so many people in this community, I'm a great man. Like and hearing the stories that people tell about him, you're just like, wow, like he impacted so many people. But he was a preacher, so, you know, of course he reached so many people. Sure. But and then I even just think about my parents, and we talked earlier about, you know, giving back to the community. And I know you've heard me talk about servant leadership. Like I fully believe in servant leadership 110%. And I think about my parents and what they're doing and the legacies they're leaving. And I'm like, okay, so what can I do? Because I want to be remembered as someone that gave back, right? And I feel like I'm a little late in life starting that, but, you know, I moved back here and then COVID happened.
For sure.
So, but I want to be remembered not necessarily for what I did or who I was or what I said, but because I helped this person achieve something they never thought they could achieve, right? Yeah. Like, or I gave this person an opportunity they didn't think they would get, or I opened their eyes to a new vision. That's kind of where I'm at, right? Like, for sure. That's what I want. I want legacies to continue. I guess that's the best way to say it.
I like that. That's definitely a good mission to achieve. You know, I definitely think you'll fully achieve that.
I hope so.
You're definitely on the right track.
Yeah, we'll see.
Thanks, guys, for listening to the Local Talk podcast presented by Small Town Design Co. Jamie, I really appreciate you coming on today. It's been a great conversation. Hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, it was fun.
We'll see what happens in the next journey that we're headed towards, and I'm excited for your journey as well, and the direction that you're headed with your new company. And
thanks for having me. This is fun.
Absolutely. Well, until next time, stay creative.